Hey guys, this is another podcast with Richard from Maryland, Mr. Brueckner. Did I say that right? Brueckner?
That's pretty close. Brueckner. Yes.
Brueckner. Okay. Mr. Richard Brueckner is a DUI lawyer in Maryland, and he has told me that he likes to surf. He likes to do a lot of new things, like, for instance, being on a podcast. And Richard, I just want to say thank you so much for spending your evening. I know time is hard to come by, especially when we're busy as adults with kids and stuff. I just wanted to allow you to say a few words about the profession and kind of how you found out about this podcast opportunity in general. I'm curious.
In growing my law practice, which I guess my trajectory was a little less common, I feel really lucky to be an attorney, lucky to get to help people, lucky to participate in stuff like this, because none of it was my plan. And that's how I know that it's probably what I'm supposed to be doing, which is that it's not my idea. And that's a common theme in my life as I look back. I am in my mid-50s now, and as I look back as a young person, I came out of high school. I was always blessed to be pretty good at sports and academics. I tried hard at sports. I never tried much with academics. I could just remember things very well and spit them back out, which means you score well on tests in the United States. As you mentioned, I grew up surfing. I'm from Ocean City, Maryland. My memory of learning to surf would be the equivalent of asking anyone on this podcast, teach me about your memories of learning to walk. And the answer, of course, would be, I don't know. I've just been walking since as long as I can remember. And after 4 years, I was getting close to graduating. And, while I'm not the smartest guy, I knew that this amazing part of my life was coming to a close. So I asked the dean if there was any way that I could stay at this amazing school. It turned out it was a Jesuit school. I didn't know that. I didn't know what Jesuits were. There was nothing I could have cared less about, right? But and as I was about to graduate and didn't want to, I asked that dean, is there any way I can stay here and keep surfing? And she said, we have an amazing law school, one of the best on the West Coast, and that's 3 years long. And you've never gotten a B because you remember things. And would you ever consider going to our law school? And my question was simple. Does that mean I get to keep surfing? And she said, yes, for 3 more years. And I said, sign me up. And I got to do that and graduated. And that was the beginning of me being drawn to a profession that has served me, and hopefully I've served thousands of others over the years very, very well. I've always enjoyed debate. Jesuits are very into debate. Their teaching style at almost all Jesuit universities is the Socratic method, where you're just called on and they spark debates between the students, and it kind of grows from within. So each person is expected to teach the next one, and sitting next to you and to not read and to not participate in the discussion is a form of dishonoring my fellow classmates. So just so many cool things, happened there over that 7 years. And
It seems like you have been a thinker for a while. People that go out of their way to educate the youth tend to be, to some degree, in my opinion, philosophers. And that usually isn't something that just sparks randomly. It's usually something that we kind of nurture over our lifetimes. And correct me if I'm wrong, but did you sit down and kind of vision board what hope meant to you ever? Or was there any books or anything that you came across you're like, whoa, this is something I should think about? Where along the way did you find the most pain in your life, the most acute pain that caused you to think about the spiritual answers?
I think the most pain in my life was finishing school and starting to do well materially. My friend set was changing. I was surrounded with young, bright entrepreneurs. I was in the San Diego, Los Angeles area. I was also very close to the Mexican border. A lot of my business associates and type of law that I was working at the time had contacts and friendships in both Mexico and San Diego. We were surrounded at that time in my life with money, booze, and cocaine. And for the guy you're talking to, those were exhilarating and fun and glamorous right up until they're not. And for me, that was, I would say, 22 to, I know at 29 years old is where I had to do something that men of my ilk, the way that I was brought up, don't do. And that's to ask for help and to go, hey, I may test off the charts in law. I may make tons of money. I may be great at my career path. But something inside me is dying inside, and this alcohol, and these drugs are tearing me up, and I need some help. And that was a giant turning point in my life, was putting down every substance, that affected me from the neck up. At that point in my life, it was probably the most pain that I've ever been in to reach out for help and to ask for help, and the greatest. And when I look back, that was like, a major turning point in my life.
Just goes to show, right? My way of philosophizing it, or at least verbalizing it, is do something enough to where you get sick and tired of it. You'll learn your own limits, right?
And nothing changes until something changes, right?
And men, we're just kind of equipped like that, right? We just kind of go and we have to go and hit our heads in order to learn the lesson. I'm not sure if that's always the case, but my mom has been telling me that for years. Growing up with boys, you just kind of have to be like, hey, look over there, that's gonna hurt you, and they're like, nah, I'll be alright.
One of the definitions of wisdom is the ability to learn from the mistakes of others. And that's why I say I'm definitely not a wise man. I may be smart and test well, but if that's what wisdom is, if you tell me that stove is hot, I got to touch it for myself to find out. I will not learn from you burning your hand. I think to myself, well, it won't do that to me. I'm going to touch it.
You're incredibly humble, sir. And I can tell there's tremendous wisdom in everything you've already said. I wanted to get more into, and thank you for sharing that. I think it's a very important lesson for young leaders, especially ones that have the talent of intellect, the innate skill, or the innate, is it a skill set? I'm not sure. The intuition, perhaps, the brain, the IQ, the genetics, I'm not sure what it is, but that are equipped with the ability to master the systems that humanity, that specifically America has put into place to actually get you to the level of success. I think a lot of them, I mean, I wasn't ever that guy. I did very poorly in school, but my brother is that guy, and so I very closely observed that personality. And I think it's required for that specific innate skill set to go through that period. For me personally, it's the opposite, right? It's like, okay, you had a lot of fun in school, and you did a lot of the things that were tangential because you were curious, but now you have to step back and you have to get a lot more disciplined, and you have to be like, okay, I have to go and study for this, I have to go and show up for this, and I have to get my time and stuff going. So it's good to know where we're at, right, in that spectrum. I guess the artist versus the researcher, or something. I
discovered in that process, because it was suggested to me, and when you're in enough pain, right, and someone suggests something, you're more, at least I'm more open-minded to it than when I'm not in. If you just suggest a root canal to somebody that's not hurting, they're probably not coming to see you, right? But when it's really bugging them and you go, we need to do this, they go, okay. And that's where I was turned on, to prayer and meditation. And why that's important is that next phase that I was telling you about in my career, those 10 years as the senior state's attorney in the gang and narcotics division. Those first 5 years, I thought I was almost, and I was, right? I was atoning and doing good for some of the bad I did in my 20s, right? And I'm not a big fan of those words, good or bad, but for this, we'll just use those words. And it felt good and it felt right internally. And like I said, however, about year 6 and 7, right, I started to see, like, am I really making a difference? Am I really helping people, or am I hurting them more? Is giving someone a felony drug conviction, can you bounce back from that? Is our system, is our legal system providing a way back, for these folks? What is my role in this? Am I contributing to, am I helping my community, or am I hurting? Just to keep it simple. And then my last couple of years, like years 8 and 9 and 10, when I would sit in meditation, and I wish that the listeners knew me as a person more. Like, I am not a patchouli wearing, crystals around my neck, universe is twinkling, wacko, right? I'm talking about simple breath meditation twice a day for 20 minutes, like just following the breath and seeing what comes into a clear mind. And I started to hear something, whatever that is, and I don't even care what it is, it doesn't matter. And the voice kept saying to me, who do you think you are, incarcerating my kids? Who do you think you are, incarcerating my kids? Who do you think you are, incarcerating my kids? Over and over and over. And that's troubling, that's a troubling voice, and an experientially based progression, right? Where you start out in one place in a career path and end up questioning this thing that you thought was so pure and good, and then you're forced to ask yourself, what am I really doing? What is that all about? Am I being arrogant when I go into that courtroom as a prosecutor or a judge? Am I assuming a role that's maybe not mine, right? In judging and locking people up, taking away fundamental freedoms, and the opportunity. I was always scared, because I don't know what anybody listening to me, the barrier to entrepreneurship for me. At that point, I was newly married. I had my first home. I had a mortgage. I had a 2-year-old baby girl. My wife was pregnant with our second, and I don't know what anyone knows about government prosecutors, but if you do it for a really long time and you're really good at it, you max out at the government pay scale of about $103,000 before taxes. And you will never make more than that. If you stay for another 20 years, right, you're going to retire at that.
Wow.
But the kind of the collar that the job had for me it's the best medical benefits that you can get in the United States. $0 deductible, right? $10 copays, both of my daughter, right? $10 to have a baby, all the medical care, hospitalization, prescription drugs. So anybody here that's, young and in your 20s and starting, that's a pretty sweet deal, right? When you're in your 20s, you got a pregnant wife at home, you got a house, you got a mortgage, you got bills, you got enough to pay all those
Healthcare
bills,
is expensive.
because you're making a decent wage. You're not killing it. You're not getting ahead. You're not saving for retirement. You're not maxing out, 401ks. You're not invested in the market. You're not getting into crypto or anything else, but you're paying the bills. You're living a relatively decent middle-class life, and your wife has tremendous peace of mind with this insurance, this Blue Cross and Blue Shield, that everybody's going to be okay no matter what. And then their husband or wife, whichever way this goes, right, rolls over one night and goes, hey, I'm thinking about quitting and starting my own law firm, or starting my own dental practice, or starting my own whatever, right? And that person that is your partner, that is, you guys make decisions together, looks at you and goes, what? You're going to do what? And in my case, my own mother said, that's not fair to do to your wife while she's pregnant. How many clients do you have? And of course, the answer is 0. I haven't even put up a sign yet, right? And one of you asked the question that just popped in my mind as we're talking. There was a great book that I read during that period called When to Jump. And if you just Googled that, When to Jump. And it's a series of stories of young entrepreneurs, right? About when to take that leap of faith from whatever career path you're in. And you're, when to jump. When do I say, that the good, right? The good is the enemy of the best, right? And that's what I like to challenge people. The good is always the enemy of the best, right? Which is a way of saying, pretend you're holding on $50 bill with everything you got. And I say, just let go of the 50, right? Because I'm trying to hand you $100, but you can't take the $100 bill as long as you're clinging to that $50 bill, right? Because it's yours and it's what you got and it's what you know and it's so comfortable and it's yours, right? But you can't accept that next thing that's in store for you that's better if you're just holding on to good, right? It's like kind of like saying average, right? Why hang out in average when you don't have to?
Right.
And that was a scary, and that book really helped me because it was the story of how many other people like me took that leap of faith, which at some point, every successful person I know of has had to take a very scary.
Okay. Well, I look forward to one that I have to take, I'm sure. It's going to be quite interesting. First of all, what age were you when you had to do that?
I was roughly 40 or 41 years old.
Midlife, you knew your skill set. You knew what you were capable of doing. And
Yes.
you had tremendous faith in yourself because of those skill sets that you've acquired probably throughout your 20s and 30s, right? So you've 15 years at least of just hard, raw work in your profession. You got it in your pocket and you're like, okay, time to go.
Correct. And I don't know if it's a good analogy, but I had one of the great opportunities as a state's attorney is to try more cases than any other type of attorney, right? You will acquire more jury trial experience in that job than anything you could possibly. And it may be the equivalent of learning to do fillings, right? It's not the most complicated part of a dental procedure, but it's the most common, right? I would bet, and now this is a guy that knows nothing, right, about the dental stuff, other than I have a friend that down here that I surf with. That you
know
could,
enough.
It's kind of the bread and butter of the dental work is just filling cavities, and you may be the best. Pretend you were with some practice or you worked for some guy that owned it and you had your little room and your little chair and you did fillings all day long and he paid you $100,000 a year and you were the best filling guy in the world, right? You're really, really, really good at it. But now I'm leaving. How do I now take that skill that I've acquired? And inside you're really good at it, but how does that translate into starting your own practice? Because what you don't know anything about is client acquisition. How do you make that patient walk through the door? Are you going to be a cash practitioner? Are you going to take insurance? Who's going to process insurance? You don't know any of that because you never had to do it. Your job was to just sit back there doing fillings or whatever other dental work they sent your way, and you collected your paycheck every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And that was me. And fortunately, through this like meditation experience and being open-minded, there's a guy named Herbert Spencer. Herbert Spencer said that there is a principle that guarantees a man to remain in everlasting ignorance. And that principle is contempt prior to investigation. Right? Contempt prior to investigation, right? That's forming an opinion, thinking I know without investigating it, right? Having a closed mind, right? A closed mind. And a guy came into my life that said, the whole future he gave me when I went to law school, he gave me a Sony Vaio laptop that was like this thick. I mean, the thing looked like, oh boy, it was unbelievable how slow, looking back, right? But the thing was cutting edge. And he's like, you should learn to take your notes in law school right on this. These things, and he was talking about computers, right, are going to be the future. And my dumbass said to him when he's trying to teach me about email, I said, this is going to be like CDs and 8 tracks and cassette tapes. It's going to come and go in 5 or 10 years. There'll be some other thing. No, why would somebody sit down and type out a letter to somebody? They're just going to write it and mail it. Like this is the dumbest thing ever. So you're talking to a guy that poo-pooed email as something that was going to come and go. I mean, can any of us imagine like living our lives not knowing how to do email? And I was resistant to that level.
We're there now, Rich. We're there now in a lot of ways. Yeah. like the lack of financial education that these kids have, the lack of emphasis on AI education, the utilization of that, the utilization of building teams, understanding leadership, like all these things are like, that's where humanity's going, and no one knows. Who cares?
What I can tell you about my law practice, exactly what you just said. I made a commitment to myself, is that I'm going to learn more about this thing, this laptop he handed me, than anybody else. And even though I don't think that this email thing's going to catch on, I'm going to learn about it. And I'm going to just start saying yes to technology. I'm going to just start saying yes. I'm going to become a lifelong learner about things, whether I think they're stupid or not. And DUIs are the fillings. A DUI is to an attorney what a filling is to a dentist. It might be one of the simplest procedure, right? And I might be wrong about doing a filling, right? And if I am,
I think it's the little I understand about law, this totally works.
Like, you don't have to be the best dentist in town to know how to do a filling, probably, right?
It's basics.
You don't. All I can tell you is that a trained monkey can defend a DUI.
A trained monkey can do a filling.
Okay, so there you have it. We're on the same plane. But can a trained monkey do 400 DUIs and turn it into a multi-million-dollar practice? How do you do that? How do you reach the client? How do you service them? How do you, build that brand that you are the filling guy, right? Here we are. I'm with Turabify, the filling guy, right? And now we're talking branding. We're talking AI. We're talking about client acquisition, understanding metrics. Where does your average client come from? How am I going to get clients? And that is really what I've done, right? Was be open-minded to technology and learning about it while my peers didn't. I also got somewhat lucky. I think fate has a hand in any entrepreneur's life that I've talked to. There's a little piece of luck in there. And the market I was entering in Ocean City, Maryland, a lot of my peers that occupied market share were in their mid to late 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they weren't going to learn about AI. They weren't going to learn about Google. They weren't going to learn about AdWords. They weren't going to learn about virtual assistants, right? They were going to keep paying secretaries by the hour to sit in the office when you could have somebody create an automated filing program where you're paying no one other than the person that built you the program, and you just got rid of 8 secretaries. But they don't want to do that.
That don't do the job, by the way.
Well, that play solitaire on the computer all day, that you're paying $40,000 a year to sit there, right, until you hand them something to type or whatever. And that generation, right, many were not willing to make that leap into what I call the future of law, and where it's heading, and what a law practice would look like to develop clients. And Ocean City is a vacation island. For anyone that doesn't know, we're off the coast of Maryland. We're in the Atlantic Ocean. The island itself is 7 miles long by 1 mile wide, and we're full of bars and restaurants and golf courses and surf spots and people. Our average vacationer is from 3 hours away. We're actually the closest beach. We get a lot of Ohio folks
I could
who
imagine.
come here from Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Baltimore. And the old business model for lawyers was, Turab, you got pulled over while you were in Ocean City. I'll make you an office appointment and you could come in my office. I'm going to give you this thing called a fee agreement. That's 3 sheets of paper that we're going to read through together about hiring me. You're going to sign it in my office. We're going to shake hands, right? I'm going to assure you you're going to be okay and not go to jail. You're going to get in your car and drive 5 hours back to Manhattan, right? And that's what I was like walking into, right?
No way. Wow. Wow.
So the challenge, right? The challenge at that point for me was to learn about all of the technology available to change this process. And now,
Brilliant.
Because the thing that I think I'm really the best at is listening to people and their needs, and providing what I want to be doing is that I want to be talking to my client, calming them, letting them know what's going to happen and that they're going to be okay. I don't want to
You
be
do have a very
messing.
calming voice, Rich.
I don't want to be messing with that other stuff. And now, and this sounds probably so antiquated to many of our listeners, but it was big time, 10 years ago, when the person calls me from Ohio and says, but I'm in Ohio, what do I do? Right. And I say, well, Turab, I want you to just look at your phone. Ping. I just sent you an Adobe DocuSign fee agreement. I want you, when we get off the call, you could take 30 seconds. You're just going to sign that with your finger. You're going to have a copy. I'm going to have, well, do I ever have to come to Ocean City? Of course not. Well, what about paying you? Ping. Rob, if you look at your phone, I just sent you a secure payment link. That's going to let you use a good old-fashioned check, a credit card, or a bank card. It's going to give you a receipt. It's going to give me a receipt in about 10 seconds. Both of those things I just sent you are going to take you about 30 seconds. You're going to be back to work doing dentist work. I'm going to do my DUI work. Your problem is my problem as soon as you click on those two links. And we just eliminated hours and hours and hours and hours of travel, of worry, of the way things used to be done, with literally within seconds, and with some simple things that are available to us.
Rich, how much time and energy would you say net you invested in getting yourself this education? Like, how long did it take you to get to the point where you were like studying all this stuff and then you finally got to apply it and you got to see the market change towards you basically start to gain momentum in terms of picking up clients and stuff?
Me, I would say my biggest learning curve was my first 2 years, in business. And that was anybody that was talking about AI or building a bot that can do certain things, which is a form of AI for anybody that doesn't know that, but and streamlining a legal practice, right? How can I do this better and faster and with less man hours? And always asking that question over and over and over again, and to anybody that was in the industry, and just saying, hey, I'm a good trial lawyer, but I don't know about this. Teach me. And then listening to what they have to say.
Out of the $100,000 pre-tax income that you were getting per year, how much would you say that you invested into your education at that point?
When I was at the state's attorney's office? Or you mean once
really when you were at that transition period, right? Like where you were like 40 something, you're like, okay, I need to change.
Well, it's also
this.
very motivating. There was no transitional period. There was a letter of resignation, right? Followed by the state's attorney did not, in my particular case, did not accept that well and say like, oh, okay, please work out your remaining 30 days that you offered us in the letter. They said, pack your shit and get out, right? Like if you, and so I woke up the very next morning with zero income, with zero health insurance, looking at a pregnant wife and a 2-year-old at the breakfast table, knowing that nobody around here is eating until I leave this place, kill something, and drag it home, right? And that's what every entrepreneur does each morning. I like to wake up, and in my mind, every day, I've made $0, right? And I leave my house to go kill something and drag it home for my wife and kids to eat. And when you think about it like that, it's a great adventure. It's scary as hell. It's exciting. And boy, is it motivating if you're built like I am, right? If you're built like me. When I was looking at that beautiful young lady with our baby in her belly and my 2-year-old looking at me, I was going to go learn some stuff and figure out how to make this thing work.
So you did it as cheaply as you possibly could.
Well,
obviously.
There's two ways to make the same amount of money, right? You can make more or you can spend less.
Okay.
And a good combination of those two is how you kill it, right? If you want to kill it, spend less, right? Maximize your gross while you're not spending anything, while your overhead is super low, right? We're always, how do I keep that overhead low? Expenses low, income high. And that's the exciting part, I think, of what a lot of these AI tools are really doing, is they're helping us trim our operating costs in whatever field we're in.
Tremendously, if done right. Were you on YouTube? Did you get a mentor? How did you kind of go about this education? What was your strategy?
Asking people that were doing it, right? And I place a lot of value, if you can't tell, in I don't know if you remember Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle.
Yeah,
but
sure.
A funny movie about that, two stoners, and there's a scene where they're in the jail cell and he's in there with this big guy, and and he says to him, and he's a total stoner, right? And sometimes words of wisdom come from the least expected place. And he looks at him and goes, the universe has a way of unfolding exactly as it should. And that was the line, right? If we're like looking for it, I had a little girl. I'll give her a shout out. Her name is Rebecca Leisher, and she is a way ahead of her time. She is a nerd bot builder. And
Brilliant.
she had, I guess I don't know this part of the story. For some reason, she cold called, knocked on my office door and walked in the front door and said, do you have anything that you file and like write each day with the court, like over and over and over again? And a DUI, right? What a DUI is, a DUI case is a series usually of somewhere between 6 and 10 tickets that the person receives. The reason for the initial stop might be speeding. So you're going to get a speeding ticket. That's a separate case than the reckless driving ticket for when you cross the center line, which is a separate case from the failure to maintain lane direction from swerving, which is a separate case from the negligent driving because you were actually going 55 and a 25, which is double the speed limit, which is a separate case from the driving under the influence of alcohol ticket that you receive, which is a separate case from the driving under the influence of alcohol and or drugs that you received, which is a separate ticket, right? And in each one of those tickets, a lawyer has to file a document called an entry of appearance, a 5-page document called a demand for discovery and inspection, a 2-page document called a demand for the presence of the breath technician, who is the expert witness who operated the breath machine you blew in to testify against you, if I want him to be present in court. If there was drugs found in the car, I have to file a demand for the chemist from the state police department where the substance was sent to be tested to determine, was it cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, what was it? In every, and I'm getting about 5 to 10 of these per day. And I want you to think about sitting there drafting.
So it's like 100 documents.
Case over and over and over and over again. And the only thing that changes on them is the person's name and case number.
Madness. Wow.
And so I'm looking at this little computer nerd and I go, yeah, there's stuff that I draft like that's what I mostly sucks up
all my time
or people I'm paying. Like I can either do it or pay somebody to do it, like pay 2 people to do it that just do that. And she said, well, what would you say if she said, well, what do you pay those people? And I said, about $65,000 a year for a good paralegal. How many do you have? 2. She goes, so what if I could save you $130,000 a year forever? And I'm going to build you this bot for $5,000. That'll just do it. And by the way,
what a business lady.
And by the way, this bot's going to do that in about 10 seconds for each person. That's how long it'll take to do all of those documents, 10 seconds. And there will never be a misspelling, and there will never be a wrong case number, because it's a bot. It's not a human being. You will never submit a document again with a misspelling where you look like a dumb lawyer. And I will tell you, if you want to really chase a client away, pronounce their name wrong or spell it wrong, right?
Apologies.
On an initial filing, right? You don't even care enough about me to spell my name right, is the message that you send to a client, right? And it's embarrassing for me anyways, because I want them to know I care about them, right? And I want to look like a professional that pays attention to detail. That's what lawyers are supposed to do, right? Pay attention to detail. And when my paralegal, that was also a hard thing. I'm a little bit OCD. I'm a perfectionist. That's a common theme, I think, for a lot of entrepreneurs, successful ones anyways. We like to do things right, or I'm not going to do it. And at the end of the day, I can have the best paralegals in the world, and if they make a mistake, I'm responsible. And that's very hard 100%. For me, is to be responsible for other people's mistakes. And with AI, I don't make mistakes.
This girl miraculously walks into your office, gives you a solution to make your business basically, 10 times more efficient? And you have the wisdom, even though you claim to not be wise, you have the wisdom to say, yes, I'm going to allow you the opportunity to make this bot for me. And here's the money.
Yes.
Brilliant.
I said, show me, for $5,000, which was a chunk of money to me at that time. Because remember, I don't have a lot of
You
clients.
gotta kill it all. Yeah.
I'm starting, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of those moments, right, that I look back and I go, damn good gamble, right? Glad I had an open mind. Glad I didn't do the Herbert Spencer. Get out of here with your crazy bots, right? And she told me she'd been in many offices where they were met with, get out of here with your crazy bot.
I assume that this girl's making good money now.
Yes.
Brilliant. I wanted to talk to you more about a systemic issue in the last few minutes that we have here. The DUI issue. So you went from prosecuting people that were getting caught for drugs and then sending them to prison, right, for about 10 years. And then you switched over to helping people that are convicted of a DUI.
Or drug offenses. Or drug offenses. Not get into the prison system, not get issues. So you have this tremendous switch of, or really an injection of why, right? And why am I doing this, right? And you did this so deeply, and you've done it so successfully for many, many years. Have you noticed that there is a change in the amount of people that are getting these types of offenses? Is there more? Is there less? Is there a change in the personality types you're seeing that are getting these offenses? Because I have some theories of working in Ohio specifically that I wanted to kind of bounce off of you, but I wanted to hear this first. I would say overall, sadly, right, because more than any point in history, with one touch of a button, right, I can have any kind of car I want sitting outside my house to take me anywhere I want. If I'm too cool for a cab or too cool to ride the bus, I can have a Escalade right out here, right, for me and my girl to pimp it right on down the highway. I've got 5 different apps like that, right? Ocean City has a bus that costs $1 for all day to go up and down all the bars. The point is, we have more options to not get behind the wheel after drinking or doing drugs than at any point in history that I'm aware of. And yet we don't utilize. I have not seen a decline, right, in DUIs. It seems like people love driving. We all think we're very important, most human beings, right? It all comes down to the ego. If I say to Rob, just take the Uber home, man, leave your, what do you drive, if you don't mind me asking?
A Honda Accord 2012.
All right, just leave it here. I'll bring you to get it in the morning. Ed, you're going to go, I can't. I have to be at the dental office. Then I've got a podcast at 11. I got to be at the bank at 1. My wife's, right? We've all got, I just can't be without my car. I've only had 3 or 4 or whatever the number is. I'll be fine, right? Famous last words. I have noticed that the high school and college age kids right now seem to not be drinking as much as we did when we were in college.
Cool. Very cool.
Alcohol is kind of not as cool as it used to be. But they do get into other stuff that arguably is worse. And
like marijuana?
Yeah,
psychedelics.
That's so acceptable now, right? Because everybody likes to go, it's legal. And I go, well, that's not the problem with alcohol. It's not a legality issue, right? If you see what I'm saying, it's been legal forever. It's the fact that, number one, it's a depressant when you put it in your body. It's a poison. It's when you drive that creates the problem. So what? Weed is legal, right? I don't know a single person that won't honestly say that smoking weed consistently over a sustained period of time doesn't dumb you down, doesn't make you lethargic, right? Doesn't make you less, I'm going to go out in the world today and get them, right? It just kind of, right? I think I'll just sit here on the couch, eat some Cheetos and drool. And that's not a great formula for getting out there and kicking ass if you're trying to start your own business. But it is what it is,
So let me get this straight. The amount of DUIs that you have seen over the last, how long have you had this business?
11 years.
Okay, so over the last 11 years, the amount of DUIs, has it stayed the same, or is it increasing or decreasing?
For me, it stayed the same.
Okay, cool. So we'll say, okay, that's our data. It stayed the same.
But that's skewed. I got to be honest with anybody. Listen, that's skewed data because I cap myself because of lifestyle and what I've learned. That's the other thing. Every person, it's very hard at different stages. If you sat down and took 5 minutes on a piece of paper at 20 years old and wrote out, success for me is, and just
Hmm.
started making, stream of consciousness, and then you did that at 30, it would be very different. And if you did it at 40, it would be very different. And if you did, I mean, what a great thing. If I could get anybody to do anything that listens to this, that would be it, man. Make your definition of what a successful life is for you, right? And anyways, I take 400 DUI clients a year. When I hit 400, I
You're done.
stop because we
Hey,
like going to Costa Rica and surfing in the winter and doing other stuff.
so what are your predictions then, based on perhaps knowing young people, knowing families, knowing other lawyers, obviously being in Maryland for a long time. What is your prediction of where society is going in terms of these DUIs? And let me tell you my part of the story here too, which might be interesting. Um, Ohio has a lot of young people that are like speeding down the highways, and this is like there's like a culture of like racing. There's like this culture of especially the people that are like drug dealers and stuff like this, like in Cincinnati areas, like there's a lot of this. And one of our politicians actually got hit by a drunk driver recently, which made her to the news too. So I was like, is there? I was just wondering, that's kind of where the impetus of this question is.
So some interesting things that anybody could research is it's been proposed, there has been legislation that loses every single year. We could build in every single car a breathalyzer into the car where the car will not start, right, until you blow into the thing. And it could be manufactured in every single car. And that would cost the manufacturer, whether it's Ford or GM or Porsche, doesn't matter. It would cost $175. And then,
Per car. Wow.
and drinking and driving would be over. Like we could eliminate the problem. Like there would be no way for it to occur for $175. But we've got a lot of lobbyists out there for a lot of different reasons, making sure that that never happens. There's also, I think that my prediction is that I will be a dinosaur, meaning my industry is going to go the way of like being a stockbroker or printing like hard stock, right? Like all the guys that were big printing salesmen are out of business, right? Like printing what? There are no magazines anymore, like newspapers. Like what are you printing? What are you selling advertise for print media? Like who does, who reads that?
Fair.
And what? A stockbroker? What do you mean? I can make my own trade for 99 cents. Why am I paying you, right? Anyways, I think as we move towards self-driving cars, right, which I think is happening. I mentioned I do have a Tesla that drives itself and
Do you
does a
like
pretty
it?
damn
Do you
good
like the
job of it,
Tesla?
right? And I think as we move in that direction, certainly over the next 10 years, again, the problem will be eliminated if
Hmm.
you remove the
The
human
human.
element
Mm-hmm.
from it. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're the problem.
We kind of always have been, huh? So, okay. First of all, thank you so much for spending all this time and actually going into your story. This is going to be very, very useful for a lot of listeners, myself included. You do mentoring and coaching. Is there where does a young law professional or business entrepreneur find you? Is there a website? Is there something that they can use to get in touch with you if they're looking for a mentor of your caliber?
If you put my name in Google, you're going to see a million different things that come up. My actual legal website is ocdwilawyer.com. Very creative, right? Ocean City DWI Lawyer.
It's well
Ocean
branded.
City goes by OC. So if you put that in, you'll get to me. One of the other things that AI, technology, and everything that you guys, meaning you younger folks, like have taught me by doing that, what you freed me up to do is if you call me, I'm going to answer my phone. I don't have a secretary. I don't let any secretaries or paralegals answer my phone calls because nobody's calling to talk to a secretary. If you talk to a secretary, everybody says the same thing. I want to run my case past a lawyer. Now they're pissed. You went past one more screening person. And I love the big difference. Everybody says, how did you go from being a prosecutor to a defense lawyer? It's like going from black to white, right? And I said, it is, right? Because what I now know, my definition of success, right, as I move towards six, is helping as many people as I can while I'm here. That's it, right? I want to die with some really good relationships, some great friendships, right? It's all about relationships to me, right? And what I get to do now that the computers are doing everything else. They're doing all the legal stuff. I get to people all day and help people. And on this side of the aisle, I get to provide real help. I got to, help put in drug courts that get people treatment instead of jail. I've come up with some legislation that lets inpatient treatment, right? If you go into an alcohol rehab for 30 days, each one of those days can count as jail time. It is now in our correctional services article as the definition of incarceration can be getting help for an alcohol or a drug problem. Like, what a great thing, right? Because
Incredible.
what does sitting in a jail cell do for alcoholism? Nothing. It makes you thirsty, right? When you get out, you're thirstier than you were 30 days ago versus treating the actual problem. I get to spend time, Turab, do you want to just beat this case and get through it and not go to jail? Or do you think you have a real problem, man? Right? How's alcohol affect you? How's your marriage, man? Are you showing up for your kids in a bunch of different ways? How do you feel inside when you look in the mirror? Seriously, at the end of the night, man, when nobody's there, it's just you and you, I can't repeat anything you say. I'm your lawyer. We got attorney-client privilege. Do you think you need help with this? I can't help but notice it's your third DUI. Do you think maybe you need some help? And I get to have those. That's why I do what I do, right? And I'll be honest, 9 out of 10 people want to beat the rap and not go to jail. But that one call a day, where it's that one person that goes, Mr. Brueckner, I've been struggling with this for years. Yeah, it's my second DUI, but I've done this dozens of times. Man, I just want to change. I think I might need some help. And it's like,
hallelujah.
Bingo, I just hit the jackpot, right? You got to shuck a lot of oysters to find a pearl. But when you do, man, it's awesome.
Thank you so much for your service, sir. And thank you for reminding me that our professions, we have power. We have really the power to change things around us. We have the intelligence, and if we have the intention, the why, we can actually change things more rapidly than one would imagine. So thank you for taking up that cause and being that person, being one of probably many people in Maryland, but few people in general. Any advice for that young person that already has that sense of service in them, perhaps in an industry that perhaps in law, right, that wants to become a lawyer? What advice would you have given to your younger self if you were going into law school and you had this why baked in you already?
I think if you know who you want to help and how you want to help, follow that in a way that feels right to you and fun to you. In case you can't tell, like, I've always followed fun, right? And I think when we place altruism and fun ahead of our own needs, material gain follows that. I wish I would have known that at 20 when I was pursuing the material and everything else kind of seemed messed up in my life. Whereas if I would have placed my focus, I guess I didn't realize that material success is a byproduct of having fun at what you do, because if you're having fun doing it, you're going to be amazing at it, whatever it is. And when you're amazing at whatever it is, money follows that. And then you're going to find out, so what? I got all this money, who cares? Like what? And that's a fun thing to find out.
Rich Brueckner, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, sir. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to help in this situation. I know we know Zach as a mutual friend, and he intends to do some fun things in Maryland. I'm sure with your help and your guidance, he can actually get there.
So Zach, and you're going to edit whatever you want, I'm sure. And
100%, yeah.
So Zach was another complete miracle, right? In that Casey, who does my website, there is a video from it was like some drug and alcohol symposium I was asked to speak at to doctors and stuff. And they're interviewing me, and I'm doing something like this, and it ended up going wherever it went around the world. But it's a really good video. It was shot by this like super good production group out of Los Angeles. Like it's professional grade stuff. And Casey says to me, that video on your website is more watched than like anything else, right? She's like, I wish we had a couple more really high grade video, just like 2 or 3 really good ones that I could put on there and put on some of your social media. But I mean, like that caliber. And I'm like, that's fine. I'm open to that. And then she called the closest production companies are in Baltimore. That's 3 hours away. And New York is the really good ones, and that's 5 hours away. And there's like New York prices. And she paid. Casey paid some production guy out of Baltimore to do what Zach ended up doing, and they just never showed up. No call, no show. Didn't steal the money or anything, just never. They're like, yeah, we're not interested in going 6 hours for that small of a job, right? For some schmuck lawyer making a couple of videos for some lawyer's, website. Get out of here. And she had that, a couple times, the New York ones, the 5 hours of travel. Obviously nobody wants to fly from LA. Like, it was just unaffordable, and there was nobody in this area, doing that. And we just said, we go, oh, well, it's not like I need more clients, right? Like, I say no to more than I take. Like, I hit 400 I'm like, why are we, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And like the next day, I forget if it was a cold call or a cold email. I think it was a call. And it's, hey, my name's Zach. I just went to college, and I'm a production guy, and I'm really good with videos. And I just moved back to the Ocean City area, and I opened my company, and I have no clients in Ocean City. And I'm trying to develop a client base, and I've got all this stuff, and I really know what I'm doing. And I did it other places, and you want to take a look at my stuff? And do you know anybody that might want like some videos shot or anything? And I was like, dude, I've been looking for you for like the last month and a half. And that's how, that's right. And it's like, how do you deny something like that? Right. And it's like, all right, universe, you just put this right in front of me. So that's how I met Zach. Was another, I call them divine setups, right? When something just is presented.
It has come by. No, he's he was quite the find for me too. He actually runs my Turabify social media. So I get it. I understand completely. And I've been helping him.
Does that fit into your
company?
How does Turabify social media
fit into the dentistry stuff?
Yeah, how does that fit into what you do?
So my real goal with Turabify is just to enhance the way that humans receive emotional intelligence education, right? Like I want to basically just have more content out there for people to be thinking about leadership. Now, healthcare and probably law have probably a lot in similar issue when it comes to, you'll get the technical skills, you'll graduate the monkey, right? But how do you instill them with the why, right? That actually makes them useful for their society more than just obviously making the money. And what I want to do is essentially create a DSO in Ohio, like 11 to 15 practices over the next 25 years. And what I want to do is each of these practices should be a ripple, and it should, like you are doing, bring these patients in that perhaps need help, and try to hook them up with other things that they need: financial education, access to resources, career help, whatever it is, right? Like anything that's in the network that's available. And the Turabify Network, and Turabify is that. So it's basically the ability to increase Ohio, locally to begin with, Ohio's workforce capacity, right? Like how many leaders we have, how many people that are specialized workers, all of this stuff. Because I realized that if I'm going to have 12 dental practices, and I know that there's a shortage of healthcare workers, that one of the harder things, but the thing that I have to build in parallel, is the workforce. Either I can relocate and go to a place that already has the workforce, or I can do probably the thing that I should be doing because no one else is going to do it, build the workforce in Ohio. So that's where the Turabify Network comes in. It's like, okay, I do podcasts with people like yourself. Now I know you, right? If I meet a young person that wants to become a lawyer, I can be like, hey, reach out to Rich. If I meet a young person that wants to go into AI or bots or whatever, I have, my CTO is going to go work for NASA soon. I can be like, go hit up this guy or go hit up this thing, or and in that way, it's that abundance mentality. It's just like, okay, we're giving access to resources, we're building the next generation of leaders, and obviously I want to go and do cool stuff. Come and join me if you want. So that's kind of the idea behind Turabify. It's a very organic way of just building trust and wealth. That's what I want to do for people. So that's why I'm doing this.
Tell me about the word Turab.
Turab in Arabic means either happiness or soil. And actually it was the nickname for the Prophet Muhammad's advisor, Ali. And so happiness is happiness. I like happiness. I like soil a lot more. Actually, I went to school as a microbiology bachelor, so I'm really interested in ecology. And so soil is obviously a massive, massive part of things.
So are you familiar with the root word of the word humble?
No.
Check that out.
The root of humble?
Humus, Humus.
No way. You're right. That's right here. Yeah.
Which is the soil, the root, right? The rich,
Wow.
good, simple soil. Like I would say, I bet humus and turab are synonyms almost.
Probably. Interesting. Well, thank you for that wisdom. I'm
No,
gonna keep
thanks
that
for
one.
that, dude. That was the thing I clung to that you said in the very beginning. I've been thinking about it. I'm like, what a cool name or word or like wherever that is. And I had one of my best friends growing up was a guy named Mustafa Razak, and he was from Egypt. And his grandmom, who we called Tita, would always be giving me these little, yelling us to get ready for school. I remember, yalla, yalla, yalla. And I get ready, and I remember, ahlan wa sahlan biki, when you're speaking to a woman, and ahlan wa sahlan to a man. And when they were mad, I remember zift being like a bad word. And we would always, joke with that stuff. But I love learning root words. So that was my blessing tonight. So,
Sir.
nice
the
to meet
blessing
you,
is
man. You're doing
certainly-
great stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for including me.
It's never gonna stop, and I can't wait to do some stuff with you too. Thank you so much, Rich, and thank you for teaching me the hummus. I can't wait to use it.